Hi, everyone. This is Professor Eric Lee. I teach in the Braden School of Taxation, and I'm going to be your host for the webinar before I have to jump out at around 40 minutes into it. But I am ably joined by our Director of Administration, Rocco Romana. Rocco, did you want to do a quick intro?
Yep, thank you, Eric. I love attending these webinars with you because they're always so robust and full of great questions. So I'm looking forward to the questions that come from the audience. After this webinar, you will receive some information. You'll receive a copy of this video, as well as a waiver code for attending this for any applications that you submit to our program. And I'm looking forward to the questions that come at the end. So take it away.
Great. Also joining us is Chu Kim, who's an enrollment counselor. Chu's going to be taking the last third of the presentation. And Chu, I'll just let you introduce yourself when you come on. I want to go over some real basics, and then we have something really special today. We have a alumni, DGU alumni, who's taking time out of her busy schedule to talk a little bit about her experience. So before we get to Jenny, I just wanted to briefly talk about the fact that not only am I a professor here, but I'm an alumni. I went through the program a long time ago in the 90s through our evening program while I was working. I really enjoyed the ability to apply what I was learning in classes to what I was doing in the real world. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so one of the things that I always like to put myself in your guys' shoes, that if I was attending a webinar like this, what would I be interested in learning about? And to me, the biggest thing is what differentiates DGU from other schools? Because you certainly have a choice in places you can potentially get your master's of tax. And that's where I came up with this slide. I want to briefly talk about the fact that having the classroom experience here is really unique because it's small and personable. It is very, very rare to have a class size greater than 25, and my average class size is somewhere around, let's say, 15 to 20. And what you learn in the class, you directly apply to the real world. And that's one of the things that is really great about our program. What we don't use textbooks, we use the Internal Revenue Code and the regulations and case law. So the actual primary authority that you will use in the real world. Another neat thing about us is we have such a strong relationship with the accounting firms. Some of that is not only due to our longstanding relationships, but the fact that we are so close by. Literally across the street is Deloitte. Next door to our building is E&Y. At the end of the block is KPMG, and about 5 or 6 blocks away is PwC. And a lot of the mid-tier firms have offices right in downtown San Francisco. A lot of those firms not only recruit on our campus, but adjunct faculty as well. And in speaking of our faculty, I hate talking about this because it seems like I'm bragging, but you can check out the bios from our online of our faculty. I have 20 years of experience in public accounting and about 20 years as an adjunct or full-time, and I believe I have the least experience of all the full-time tax faculty. So that gives you a little bit of idea of the tax faculty background. I'll talk about our offerings later. And then I'll let you do your own research on the rankings at taxtalent.com and others that have recognized our program as one of the top in the nation. Just one caveat with that. Anyone, anywhere who says that whatever they are ranked really high, you should ask them 2 questions. One, who's doing the ranking? What criteria are they using? And taxtalent.com reached out to recruiters from all over the nation, and they asked, well, which programs do you personally rank highly as places that you want to go and recruit at? So that's where that ranking comes up. But the big thing I want you to take away, if you take away only one thing from this entire webinar, is that I made this acronym spell out career. And I really think that's what differentiates Golden Gate University. Whether you're looking to enhance a career which is in tax, which is already established, or whether you want to start off new in tax. Getting a master's of tax at Golden Gate is going to really help, not only with the technical material, but the information that we give you and the support that we give you and the resources that we give you that will make you successful in the recruiting area and allow you the ability and the skills to network, which is so important in a career of taxation. Next slide. I'm not going to spend much time on this slide. It tells you just a little picture of what our classrooms are like, and outside our classrooms. So we went through a renovation of all our floors about 2 years ago. Go ahead, next slide. Okay, one thing you might wonder is, well, regardless of Golden Gate, what are the benefits of going to MST? I already covered this. It's about enhancing your career, and that's whether you're in public accounting, private, work with the government, or a nonprofit. And it helps you develop your professional network. Your professional network can be developed whether it's a fellow classmate, again, helped by the smaller class size, or with a professor, or in the recruiting areas of all the different events that we have. Next slide. You might say, because the comment in the previous slide was, hey, our students get hired. A good question may be, well, where? Where are they getting hired? And the bigger the circle, the more that we have alumni that are working there. So it's not surprising that the Big Four is really well represented between EY, Deloitte, KPMG, and PricewaterhouseCoopers. And in case you're not familiar, when I say Big Four, I am talking about the 4 large public accounting firms. And when I say public accounting, I am talking about firms that have clients. So when you go to work in a public accounting firm, you'll end up working at a variety of different clients, both tax compliance and tax consulting. Beyond that, you can see that there's some corporations that are on here, so that our alumni are probably working in their corporate tax department, whether that's Chevron or Wells Fargo. And you certainly see some of the smaller accounting firms like BDO Seidman and Moss Adams represented. Go ahead, next slide. So normally I take this time to play a recording, which, by the way, if you go onto YouTube and go to Golden Gate University, you'll see our YouTube page. And it has a bunch of videos on there where you hear from our alumni and they'll talk about their experiences. But you guys are in for a treat, because I can do one better than give you a recording. I'm going to let you hear directly from an alumni, Jenny Liang, who was so nice to join us on this call and talk a little bit about her experiences. Jenny?
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. So let me break down my experience into 2 parts. So I think that's what everyone cares about the most, because I was in your shoes a year ago. I was one of the attendees of the tax webinar last year around this time, before I came to San Francisco Bay Area for the cohort, the MSc cohort program. So first part is from the academic perspective, that you probably wonder who are the professors, how are the courses designed, and how the class is like. So talking from a cohort experience, so some of you may know, some of you may search online and take a look on the schedule of the MST cohort already. So every year we join in July, and then we're gonna do half year of full-time study, which is consists of 2 semesters. And then the last semester, which is the January to April, the busy season, we're gonna take 9 classes at the same time doing an internship. So personally, I came here in July 2018. Before I came, I was working in PwC of Bermuda as an audit accountant with no education background in US tax. I did my undergrad in Canada in University of Waterloo, so that was Canadian tax. So I did not know anything about US tax, and I was in audit, but trying to switch to a US tax job. And GGU ranked the top from the well, a lot of time ranked the top on the survey. So that's why I applied and I got an interview with Rocco, and I came. So I came in July, did half year of full-time studying in the MST cohort program, and then got an internship at the Deloitte San Francisco office here. So in this past busy season, January to April, I was working in the business tax group in Deloitte, which is right across from our school. And at the same time, I was taking Saturday classes, federal procedures, and also a night class. Every Thursday night, I was taking a night class in international tax to finish my program. So by the end of April this year, 9 months after I came, I got a full-time offer from Deloitte SF, and also finished my program. So academic perspective is that the program, I felt like all our professors, Eric is actually the youngest professor I had in the program. And he's the one with 20 years of working experience. So imagine the people that were teaching us are the people that in the field for their whole life. They're all grandpas or grandmas, and they have been in the field for like 40 or 50 years. So it was so cool because you feel like you're not only learning the materials but also learning it, their life lessons as well. They told you so many stories about how they dealt with clients, how they dealt with regulators, a lot of stuff. So in terms of the materials, you can also find it on the GGU MST website. It was so well designed. So the first semester for cohort program, I guess that would be the same sequence for the people who are taking part-time as well. The first 3 courses are so fundamental, but they're so useful. We have a course called Federal Tax Research that basically teach us how to do research. When the client threw you a question, or when your friend asks you a question, like, oh, I got this stock option, I don't know what is and I want to do blah, blah, blah. Do you have any advice for me? That kind of stuff. You have no idea because you definitely cannot remember everything or have the solution for all the tax questions. But the tax research class taught us how to, which code or which authority that you should go to, and how to break down the question, break down the fact, and then step by step to tackle that questions, and to write a memo about how to provide multiple solutions and how to compare them, and in the end draw a conclusion about what we should advise the clients or your friend to do. So that's a skill that I feel like differentiates from the courses for sure. The school also provided free access to RA and CCH. These two are a super powerful online platform with tons of tax resources out there. We also have courses called Advanced Federal Tax that cover the code section from 1 to 250. If some of you are in tax already, that cover code section 1 to 250, that basically the fundamental theory about income and deduction, that kind of stuff. And also we have property transaction that cover the code section 121, 1031, like the common one that you will come across in all kinds of tax entity. In the second term, we cover partnership tax, corporate tax, and tax timing. So these are the one that we will definitely come across in the tax world, because you want, even though you are doing individual tax, you can't say that your clients may have a corporation or enter into a partnership agreement. It's always good to know them. So that covers like chapter K, subchapter C, different kind of cash method. And during my winter internship time, I was taking a Saturday whole day class called Federal Tax Procedure, and my professor was a IRS, Internal Revenue Services chief executive that was teaching us how to deal with IRS, how to deal with them. What will the IRS look for when they want to audit you? So it was so practical, and you basically hear the IRS person teaching you how to deal with them. And,
Jenny, this is Eric. Let me cut you off. Rocco, can you speed ahead to the classes? Because this is something that Jenny just gave a really good breakdown. Because I was going to talk about it, but we can kind of talk about it now, about the fact that our program, A Master's of Tax, is really 10 classes. And 7 of the classes are required, and then you can take up the 3 electives. You know, the screen is green, Rocco, for me. I can't see anything. Jenny, do you see just green?
Mm-hmm. Same.
You're on mute, so I can't hear you.
Let me reshare.
Okay. Great. Keep going. One more slide. There you go. So what Jenny was going through, and she was explaining that, hey, you had that great tax research class, which teaches you how to research, then the basic individual class, and then into the operating classes before you do a deep dive in the corporations and partnerships as your 7 classes. One thing that I thought would be really good before we lose Jenny is to the extent that you have any questions for her specifically about her experience, whether it be in the classroom or outside the classroom, either through the recruiting process or while she was working, go ahead and type it into the chat, and I'm sure Jenny would be happy to answer it. Jenny, I did cut you off. Was there anything else that you wanted to specifically talk about?
Maybe just 2 more minutes about from the career perspective.
Sure.
Of my experience. So I felt like I got the job. Well, that's actually, Deloitte was my first choice when I was looking for a job. And I think I got the job is because, first of all, the GGU reputation was so good in the area. For a lot of the attendees, you're not in the Bay Area. When I started to network in the school networking events, or even go outside of the event, like no one in the tax community doesn't know about GGU, and no one does not have a good impression about GGU. And there were often times that employers actually send their current employees to come to GGU to take the part-time classes. So that's one thing. I feel like it was GGU that that defines me, that makes me to be a candidate that they're looking for. So that's one thing. And because I actually came from Toronto, even in Toronto, a lot of the US tax practitioners over there are doing GGU online program as well. So GGU is, I guess, it's the only US university that every US tax professional would know in the Toronto community as well. So the reputation, I feel, is the key. The second one is like the opportunity, the networking opportunity that GGU provided to me, that there was so many webinars, so many networking session, a lot of employers come. That's how I network with Deloitte. I also got offered from other Big Four as well, and I network with the people through the GGU organized events as well. So yeah, if you have any more questions for me, feel free to find me on LinkedIn, add me, inbox me. If you're in the area, feel free to ask me for coffee. If you're not in the area, I can always answer your questions through Skype or FaceTime.
Jenny, we have at least one person that's on the call. So could you just spell your first and last name for them?
Yes. Jenny Liang.
No, but well, I'll tell you. Because on the call, they can't see that. But Jenny Liang, Jenny, Liang, Liang. Yeah.
And you can search GGU or Deloitte San Francisco if there were so many of like Jenny Liang out there.
Rocco, did you have any questions for Jenny or anything else you were wondering or wanted her to talk about?
No, but I'm monitoring the chat box to see if there's any questions come up, but nothing has come up at this point. I think you have a very comprehensive knowledge of your experience that you shared with us, and I think that's wonderful. and how your MST kind of jump-started, or not even jump-started because you kind of were already in doing similar work, but just really got you going here in the United States. So good to hear this.
Well, I just have one question, because I know what I would ask you, Jenny, if I was in the audience and trying to think about taking this program. And my question for you is, I understand that you took it to the cohort program, which is accelerated, taking 3 classes at a time, but it's still the same program whether you're taking it online or in person, meaning the same content. How hard did you find it? You know, was it difficult or challenging? Was it easy? Like, technically, how hard was it for you to get through the program?
To me, I did put in a lot of effort. I pushed myself hard. As what Rocco mentioned, I actually not from the area, so I have to pay the rent. I have the tuition and pay the tuition, get the tuition from my parents. So I kind of feel that it's a lot of people said it's challenging, but it's definitely no problem if you put in effort. So every day I study, like when I was full-time studying, I studied 3 hours every day after class, and that's fine. I don't have a B on my transcript. None of my 10 courses I have a B. So I feel like 3 hours every day would be good. And during my internship, when I'm not taking my class on Thursday, I still try to put in 2 hours, 1 or 2 hours. And I also completed my CPA, US CPA exam during the whole program, like during the 9 months as well. So I feel like it's definitely challenging if you have family, you have kids that you have to deal with, but it's not that tough. Right. Just put the time, yeah.
And just to be clear, that you had the cohort program, which is at a much faster pace than like taking 1 class in the evening or 1 class online.
Yeah.
So great. And I don't know if everyone caught that. She just said a little under the radar really quickly that your transcript doesn't include a B. It also doesn't include a C, D, or F. I imagine, which is an incredible accomplishment. So great job. Well,
congratulations, Jenny, on also finishing your CPA, because I don't think I knew that. That's awesome. It's a pretty hard task, difficult task rather to accomplish that while you're doing this comprehensive accelerated daytime program. So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to move on. If I'll ask Jenny to stay on for a couple more minutes, and then she can head on out. So if you have any other questions for Jenny, please type it in the chat in the next couple of minutes. And Rocco, feel free just to interrupt me if a question does come in. I want to move forward because we do have a lot of more information I wanted to get across. So in talking about what I call the gold standard, which is getting the master's in tax, that's 10 classes. And in those 10 classes, as we talked about, 7 are required, and then you can take 3 electives. When you're choosing to take, my complaint, what I've heard from people is, well, there's just so many options. Like you have so many different options and you only have 3 electives. Because if you work in individuals, there's a whole series of estate, gift, and trust classes you can take. If you're interested in flow-throughs, we have a really good choice of entity class. If you're interested in corporations, we have multi-state classes. We have international tax classes. We have an accounting for income class. We have a very good mergers and acquisition class. So you have lots of options for your elective. And when students come to me and say, well, what elective should I take? I always say, well, what area are you either practicing in now or you expect to practice down the road? Because always in learning, it's best to be able to apply what you learn, somewhat close to after you have learned it. The other thing to keep in mind is I got a chance to talk to some of the people before the session, and many of you, some from Canada, are taking our classes online. And there's basically 3 options, 3 kind of paths you can take. Jenny talked about taking it through our cohort program, which is an in-person day program. You shouldn't be working. That's kind of a full-time commitment, and you can get your master's in tax in as was 9 months. Is there a
Yeah.
question?
Uh,
Uh-oh. I don't think he knows that he's on. Are you able to mute him? Yep, okay. All right. So I was just talking about there's several different formats that you can take it. The cohort, which is a full-time day program, but you can get your master's in tax as little as 9 months. So if you're able to take a leave of absence from work or in between jobs, that's an excellent opportunity for you. Real briefly, I want to go back. I know the slide says online, but I want to talk about cohort for a minute and while Jenny is here. Jenny, can you talk a little bit about the experience of doing cohort? The concept in cohort is you go from class to class in the same group with the same group of students. And I always tell people in these webinars, I've found that the cohort class is a closer knit group than any other class that I teach because they really get to know each other. Can you comment a little bit about that if you agree or maybe if you disagree?
Yeah, for cohort, because we're taking the same classes together for half a year. So we are a very tight group. So in the 2018 to 2019 cohort, the one that I just graduated from, we have 19 people. And we always we have small group study together in the library if we live close to school. But we also have students that they commute together from San Jose. They will chat about what they learned together on the train home. So it was a community that it's like a group that we're very close to each other. And even now after graduation, we still chat through social media, ask them how they are. And so something about the cohort class is that out of the 19 people, I guess there was only 7 of them got a job already or not looking for a job. And then out of the remaining 12 of us, I think there was 9 or 10 of us actually got a full-time offer from the Big Four in the Bay Area. And the 2 other are either in Most Adam or BDO, that kind of public accounting firms. So, so yes.
Great. So, and that's kind of the cohort experience. I want to talk a little bit about the online experience. You can at Golden Gate get an entire master's in tax purely online. And then when I say that, that means you do not have to come to any campus. All class participation is done online. The exams are taken remotely. And there is one proctored exam, and it's through a program called ProctorU. Can you go to the next slide? I want to take you through a typical online week. This is a picture of my TA 318 class for the second week, talking about gross income. So usually the instructor will list out what the objectives and the assignment is, what exactly your reading assignment is, what are the problems you need to work out. And then there's usually some type of lecture component. When it's an in-person class, there's a part of the class where the instructor is lecturing. Well, the same thing happens online. It just happens through a video or a PowerPoint narration. And then the real meat of the class is the discussion forums. The balance of the week is a kind of a back and forth discussion. I mean, a discussion is not one way. A discussion is back and forth. So what I always tell my students who are taking classes online, it's very important that they're engaged in a discussion forum 4 or 5 days of that 7-day week. So when I post a question, that bunch of students are replying, and then you can reply to another student's comment. And when done correctly, it makes for a really rich discussion. At the end of the week, I release the problem solution so everyone knows what the correct analysis is. And then finally, we have a quiz that checks your knowledge before it all repeats itself with the same type of things, but with a new technical topic. Next slide. So we talked about the fact that our program has this amount of flexibility. One question I get a lot from students is, I'm not doing the cohort, but I'm either taking classes online or evening. How many classes should I take in a semester? And it simply depends on your other responsibilities. I never took more than 1 class, and I never took a class in the spring because I was always really busy. So it took me 5 years to get through the 10 classes of the program. But that's what worked with me. I know other people who are a little what I call crazier, who can take 2 classes at a time while working a 40-hour job. It's how long you spend in each class. It's a normal 15-week class, depends on a lot of factors. But as a rule of thumb, including class time, I tend to say 10 to 14 hours a week can be spent in any class. So if you kind of just do the math, if you're working a 40-hour week already into your job, 2 classes, has you going upwards of 65-hour weeks of working. So you got to decide if that's too much or not for you. Now, if you're working part-time or you're not working at all, taking 3 classes if you're not working at all is very doable. You can start any semester that you want if you're taking online or in person. Our cohort program, Rocco, can you comment a little bit about the cohort program in the sense of timing? If they're interested in cohort, they have to act pretty soon, correct?
Yes, they do. So the official start date is July 29th. That's the first day of class. July 26th is the mandatory orientation. And Jenny did a really thorough job of kind of laying out the format because she just recently experienced it. It has a lot of benefits, but the first 2 terms, which are each 9 weeks long, are all in person. And then the 3rd term, which is 16 weeks, and the last one that coincides with the busy tax season, students can take online classes and, of course, internship if they choose, which is an elective course.
Yeah, so can you scroll down?
Go ahead.
You go ahead and scroll to that. I believe that I wasn't going to spend because Jenny did such a good time. This is what Rocco was talking about and Jenny. Then a cohort program, it has these 3 terms. The bottom line, to remember, the cohort begins at the end of July. And by the Christmas break, you would have completed 6 of the 10 classes, 6 of the 7 required classes. Jenny talked about the tax procedures from an IRS executive that comes in on Saturday and does the tax procedures course. And then you're with just electives after that. You can go on to the next slide.
Well, I just want to quickly just mention that for the cohort program, I don't know if we have that slide already included, we are offering a special grant. So students just applying to the MST Day Cohort Program, if they're admitted, they'll get a grant worth the value of 1 class, so $3,750, which will be the fall tuition. And that is a nice size chunk of money in it. And so if you're interested, you can get in contact with me to learn more about the cohort program, and my information will be later on in the presentation.
All right, let's keep
there it is. I forgot we had it. There it is. That's exactly what I was talking about.
And by the way, I should have said this at the beginning. These slides, I believe, Rocco, are going to be sent to anyone who attends. So I should have told you that at the beginning, that you don't need to.
We'll send the recording, and it'll have, of course, the slides embedded.
Yes. Okay, so what I'm going to do, Rocco, is I'm going to pause. Well, I think this group, you guys can handle it. So I'm going to talk about 2 of the professional events, and then probably head out and turn the rest of the presentation over to you, Rocco. So the 2 events that I am going to talk about are Lunch and Learns, and I will talk a little bit about the career fair. And I think it's great that since Jenny is here, if she wants to comment at all about her experience from a student after I go over what it is, she's welcome to. Anyway, I made a pretty bold comment at the beginning of this webinar. I said that if you come to Golden Gate, it's going to help your career, and you might say, what? You learn technical material, I know, but how are you really going to help in a career? And I think one of the ways in a distinguishing way that GGU does it is through our professional events. First, with our Lunch and Learn series, I help organize these. There are about 40 Lunch and Learns that happen in the fall semester. They range from job search skills Lunch and Learns, like resume writing, cover letters, interviewing, networking skills. to some technology lunch and learns, which was compliance skills, like actually preparing a tax return on a tax compliant software, and an outside firm comes in and does that. To Excel, what are the key Excel skills that you need to know, not just in general, but what do people in the tax community who are working in public accounting, what Excel skills do they use? And I got to tell you, for 20 years of working in public accounting, and I bet if you have that experience, you already know a little bit about this. It's all about being not only correct, but being efficient. And learning how to use Excel efficiently can really help in that area. And we also have a couple of technical sessions wrapped up in that as well. Now, Career Fair is offered in September. It's an event that we have about 40 to 35, 40 firms come. And what they do is there's an opportunity for them to get to know you and for you to get to know that firm. You usually bring your resume and you can have a one-on-one conversation for about 5 minutes. They might ask you questions about you and you may ask them questions about their firm. It's a very big room with lots of people in there, but it really gives you a nice leg up when you actually put your resume in that you have made contact, because a lot of the people who come there are part of their recruiting team, either the actual campus recruiter or a partner or a manager from that firm who is involved in recruiting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rocco and Jenny to comment about the other things. I'm sure Rocco's going to say this, but I want to be clear. All of these professional events are included in your tuition. There's no extra cost. And at least the Lunch and Learns and the Braden Leadership Series, because you might say, hey, I'm in Canada. What about me? They're all recorded. So you can go back and listen and watch the recording and get the information as well, whether you're an online student, an evening student, or a cohort student. Rocco, I'll leave you with the Braden Leadership and the Business Practice Luncheon.
Thank you.
Were there any unfortunately, I apologize. I do have to head out. Were there any questions for me, though, before I jump out on anything that I covered? Well, I wish you well on your journey. I hope one day to see you in a GTU, either a physical classroom or an online classroom. But regardless, I think that you're potentially entering or already in a great career in taxation, and I always wish you the best. Have a great rest of your day. I'll let you take it from there.
Safe travels, Eric. Thank you. So the two remaining events, and I want to say, and just kind of piggyback on what Eric has already said, is that these are really designed around helping students get connected to resources, employer, networking events, and so forth. So we really see these opportunities as ways of putting employers in front of our students. And even if you're not physically able to attend, you can watch most of these events, except for, of course, the live events that are not recorded, which are the Career Fair and the Practice Business Luncheon. You can watch the recorded events. The Braden Leadership Speaker Series is about helping students and anybody attending these events, because they're open to the wide, to the open community, is about really identifying what are those competencies as leaders that you need to have as you start to advance in any profession, because leadership skills our competencies are transferable. They're not just to a specific industry like tax or accounting. So we invite a wide range of leaders to come and talk to our student and talk to them about what does it mean to be a leader in their field. And this is just an example of one where we had Jacob Jaber, who is the CEO of Phil's Coffee. If you don't know Phil's Coffee, it is a growing brand here in at least in California, and I believe it extends out to other areas throughout the country. But it is a mom and pop type coffee business that has grown and flourished. And he really provided insight on how with his father's vision, they've grown their company and what are important things to them as business owners and leaders in their community. The Practice Business Luncheon is another networking opportunity, and maybe Jenny can just kind of give a brief review of what it was like for her.
So mine was held on September 24. What's this? September 23rd of 2018. So that was the time when all the accounting firms and some corporations are looking for the tax interns for the upcoming busy season. So during that lunch and learn, we signed up and we went to the area. We went to the Hilton Hotel in a conference room out there, and surprisingly, we actually had more. The school limited 50 students to sign up for it, and it turns out to be there were actually more employers showing up than students. So I actually have the opportunity. Okay, like usually when we went to a networking session, it was like 7 students surrounded one tax partner and they kept asking questions, and then the tax partner probably won't remember who you are at the end, so you have to send a follow-up email. But it's actually a different the situation just reversed on that lunch, that there was actually 2 or 3 employers talking to me alone at once. Because to them, maybe they want the talent as well. They want to talk to you as well. They want to work with someone that who fit their culture, who fit their firm. So they came, and also they maybe also a networking opportunity for them as well. So it was a very good one that I got to connect with some partner at PwC, San Francisco, Grant Thornton, and actually I also connected with one of my clients during the lunch. But at that time, I don't know she will be my client. And later on, when I work at Deloitte, it turns out to be I'm actually working on her file. And that connection, it just make the work easier. And we actually chatted for coffee, and then it was just a wonderful experience. And I hope that every student can sign up for it if they're in the area.
Great, thank you, Jenny. So yes, it is a networking luncheon. You get to practice and you get the valuable feedback from the employers. They complete a survey about their experiences with the students at the table. So you start off with an entree, you get to network with them, kind of talk and engage with the employer sitting at the table. Then they go away, they complete a survey, and then they come back and they go to a different table. And so you get another group of employers. So it is a great experience, and we have alumni in there as well, and we have who are recruiting, as well as a variety of employers who actually, many of them or their firms are represented at the career fair on that same day. So the luncheon happens earlier in the day and then followed by the career fair. The Braden Leadership Speaker Series, if I didn't mention it, because I don't remember if I did, it is also available live stream, so you can Zoom in actually and watch it live if you can't physically be in the room, and then you get to ask questions and hear the presentation in the moment. So again, these events are really just a sample of the events that we put out for our students. And even if you're not able to come physically because you're in another state or country, you do have access to a lot of these resources via online. And so it's a great opportunity for you to start cultivating your networking opportunities and connections, and maybe looking for a future job or advancement opportunities within another firm, if that's what you're looking to do. We have a lot of support services here. Again, these are not just for students in person, these are for students anywhere. You have access to it. You'll be assigned an advisor, a graduate advisor, who will guide you from start to finish in your plan to complete your MST degree. We have tutors. Those tutors are available in person or remote via Zoom during their scheduled hours. We have a great partnership with the Office of Career Planning, who really works closely with our office, the faculty, and most importantly, the students, by providing them resources and networking events And so they have a really robust platform. And here's a sample of just some of the resources they provide that any student can access once you become a student. So like how to create an elevator pitch, how to, what are some of the interviewing basics, cover letter construction, resume basics. These are really important things so that you really craft your resume and your skills and your presentation skills towards getting a job. Wellness resources, life happens and things get in the way, and sometimes it's between family and work and just homework, and like how do you balance all these things out? And so we have a great wellness resource team who's here to help you and figure out how to overcome some obstacles that you might be facing. Getting involved in the community is also important. We have a tax club, an accounting club, and we also do VITA services. So if you've not heard of VITA, it is the Voluntary Income Tax Assistance Program. It's a part of the IRS. And I just met with the student leader today who ran it through the spring term, and they did over 100 returns and great feedback. It was just a great experience for a group of students. They had volunteer students who were scheduled to meet with the community, people in the community who needed to have their tax returns completed. So it is really, really a unique opportunity. Of course, we also have financial aid to help you figure out how to pay for school. There might be scholarships or grants that are available to you. So it's always great to tap into the financial aid department to figure out what types of opportunities are available and accessible to you, including your employers. If you're working, maybe your employer has a tuition remission program, and so you want to figure out how you can make that work with Golden Gate University. All of these services are available to students in person or wherever you reside. So whether you're in another country or somewhere else in the country, the United States, you have access to these resources. Chu, would you like to introduce yourself and then start to talk about the military benefits program?
Yes, so my name is Chu Kim. I'm the enrollment counselor for domestic graduate tax and accounting students. So GGU is very military friendly. We have a lot of veterans in our program. We're part of the Yellow Ribbon program, so students can get military benefits with possibly paying $0 out of pocket for the cost for their education. Typically, they need to study full-time, taking at least 9 units with 3 units in person, covering the 16 weeks. So definitely welcome military students as well. In addition, we have different proficiency requirements for our tax program. So the first is the English language admission requirement, which is required for non-native English speakers or those with foreign credentials. And there are different ways of meeting this. You can find ways to meet this on GGU's website. Typical ways are if you have 7 years professional work experience in the US with increasing responsibility, you could submit your resume. We also take TOEFL, IELTS, or Pearson's. Or if you have a master's degree or a US or a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited institution in the US or English-speaking countries such as the UK or Australia, that will also meet the English language requirement. Not all countries meet this requirement, such as India, so there's the different ways, other ways of meeting it. In addition to the English language admission requirement, there's the English 2 on graduate writing proficiency. So in addition to being able to speak and understand English, so students, especially with foreign credentials, can keep up with the materials. We want our students to be able to write at a graduate level. So we had spoken with faculty as well as employers, and this is a very important skill to have. So we have the English 2 graduate writing proficiency, and there are different ways to satisfy this. If you have a U.S. bachelor's degree from a accredited institution in the U.S., that this can be waived. If you pass the CPA exams in the U.S., that could be waived. We also have an English 2 proficiency test for students that haven't, if it wasn't waived, that they could take to see if it can be waived. Otherwise, students will be required to take and pass the writing course. Additionally, there is a business 2 business graduate proficiency for those who don't have a U.S. degree from a accredited institution or don't have at least 2 years full-time work experience in the U.S. to make sure they understand U.S. business practices, so what they learn in their tax courses makes sense as well. So with GGU's tax program, GMAT is not required, GRE is not required, but we will need official transcripts with degree verification. Typically, students would want a GPA of 3.0 or better, but even if your GPA was below 3.0 on a 4.0 scale, so below a B average, you could still apply, but submit a resume and a statement of purpose addressing your lower grades, what had happened, what has changed, your plans for success, and we'll email you a prompt once we receive your transcripts with further information about what to include in your statement of purpose in this case. For those who are interested in the MS Tax Day cohort program, the statement of purpose, resume, and recommendation letter is required. Additionally, for non-native English speakers, such as international students, the English language admission requirement is required, and you can meet this with TOEFL or IELTS or the different ways listed on our website. And there are different ways to finance your education. We offer federal financial aid, in which case, if you're interested, you would want to submit your GGO financial aid application as well as your FAFSA application at the website listed there using GGO's institution code also listed there. We also provide state aid based on merit as well as need. We have different scholarships and grants available, such as the Welcome Scholarship for international students. And we have all this information on our website listed there. You could also use private or alternative loans. We also have students who their employer is reimbursing, so we could work with you and your employer on that. So all of that is available to students. So for tuition, a 3-unit graduate course is currently $3,600 for summer term, if anyone is starting in the summer term, which has already started. If not, our fall semester is our next available term, and there will be a slight increase in the tuition for that. So starting fall 2019, tuition for a 3-unit graduate course for Braden School of Taxation will be $3,750, not including costs of books or fees, such as the 85 technology fee per term, nor additional tuition increases. But usually it stays the same for that academic year. If you are a MS Tax Day cohort student, there will be a $1,000 graduate professional business fee. It's a one-time fee that you pay at the beginning of your program. But for our regular tax students, that wouldn't apply. There is also a $65 application fee that none of you will have to worry about. because we'll provide the application fee waiver code so you could apply for fee and save $65 for attending this event.
I posted the waiver fee in the chat box, but you will also get it in a follow-up email in the next day or so. So no worries.
So GGU, we're on a trimester system, fall, spring, and summer. So we accept applications on a rolling basis for our regular tax programs. For our MS Tax Day cohort program, there is a special deadline because it starts in the sooner. So if anyone is interested in the Tax Day cohort program, you could reach out to me and I could provide further details about that. I'll include my email address in the chat box. So for the regular tax students, we recommend applying at least 15 business days before classes begin. Our summer term has already started on May 1st. So again, our next available term is fall semester, which starts August 25th, with registration opening up in early July. This will allow time for students to get their documents in, have it reviewed, and get registered for classes, and take any placement exams, such as the English 2-1 test if needed.
So here's if you have questions, after this, likely you will. You'll walk away and go, I should have asked this one question. So here's our contact information. And if you have questions about the cohort program, you can also email me directly. And I'll put my email address in the chat box, which is dlamana@ggu.edu. And feel free to contact me for further information about anything, actually. I'm happy to answer them. Or you can just email us at the general tax@ggu email box. But I'd like to open it up now, and I'm going to stop sharing. We'll send this out to you again in the next day or so. The enrollment team will get this out, and along with the video. But I'd like to open it up and ask questions of anybody and get those out. You can chat them or you can unmute, whatever works best for you. And I do know that there were 2 questions that came through while we were talking, and I want to go back and make sure that I get them. Jake Roski from Canada has a CPA and also is an EA and wants to know if there are any exceptions to waiving TA 329 and 318, and typically there's not. I know looks like you're interested in taking the Introductory to International Tax class, TA 321. You can work with CHU to submit a request to waive. It will be reviewed by the school, but typically we don't. We find that those are important skill sets, especially if you are not familiar with US tax or have not done tax in the United States. That would be important information to understand before you go into advanced courses such as TA 321. But again, work with CHU to submit a request, and you can have it reviewed for a determination. Annie asks, is the career fair available for students that take online classes? Absolutely. All of our events that are in person are available to any student. If they're in the area or have an opportunity to come to the area during that event, you're more than welcome to join. So yes, and in some cases, we've had students who have come here the full day, were able to attend the Practice Business Luncheon, which is kind of just on a first come, first served basis registration. They were able to get in, and then they came for the day, and they stayed through the career fair. So that's definitely an opportunity. If you have questions, feel free to unmute again or put them in the chat box. We have about 2 more minutes to the top of the hour, but I can stay on for a few minutes beyond that to answer any questions that are coming through. John, it sounds like you everything is good for you. Great. I am originally from Seattle, actually, so I'm glad to hear that you're from Seattle. Hopefully you have good weather. We do have some sun here today, so but we've usually had, well, this whole week has been pretty much on and off rain, so today is a especially beautiful day. Questions could be about anything like courses, the content, how to apply, anything. So feel free to ask questions. Any live session requirements for online programs? For pure online, no. We do not have any live requirements. Sometimes the faculty member will hold Zoom sessions where you can do office hours or question and answer, whatever you want to call them. But those are optional. We encourage students to do those, but we know that students come from a variety of different time zones, so having a live event or a live session in an online course may not be practical. We do offer a web conference version, which means that for students who would like to get that in-person feeling but can't attend physically in person, they can also attend web conference. Only some of our courses are that, where we offer web conference. So you would Zoom in, just like we are today, during the same date and time that the class is offered in person. So you would be attending, listening to the live lectures. You'll be able to engage in conversation, just like we are today, and do all that. What is the process to transition from a certificate program to a full MST or vice versa? So you apply to one of the programs, and then you can just work, once you've completed your certificate and you want to go to the MST program, you can just work with one of the enrollment counselors or myself, and we'll help you make that transition. It shouldn't be very arduous. The process to go from from MST to certificate is equally an easy process. We have students who get started and have completed enough units in the correct courses to graduate with a certificate, and sometimes they want to have that to put on their wall while they still continue to work on their MST. So that's a process that we can work with you on, so it's not an arduous issue. I am a CFP. Can I do the estate planning concentration and add TA 330 and TA 338? So the MST program doesn't have a concentration. You're given up to 9 elective units, so it's not really a concentration. You can do, once you've completed the prerequisites to any courses, you can do the electives. So I'm not too sure, I maybe not quite understand your question. I think it's coming from Apaya. So if you want to maybe just clarify a little bit more, because I'm not sure if I answered it correctly. Takura is from Lagos. Great. Thank you for joining us. And I see Geetka Mehta enjoyed this presentation, so thank you. But Apaya, if you want to unmute and ask your question again or retype it, I'm not too sure I answered it correctly. Thank you, Jake, for attending. Hope you have a great day and enjoy your rest of the week. Okay, you got it. Okay, thank you. We do have a certificate in estate planning, which once you do your MST, you can also go back and do that. Or you can just do the certificate in estate planning if that's something of interest to you. So we have one more minute. So if you have any last minute questions, the time now is to, thank you, John. time now is to join or chat it or unmute and ask it, and we'll wrap up. If you are have all the questions answered and you have you're free to leave or to sign off. And again, we hope that you will contact us if you have future questions, or if you have, or maybe we'll see you on campus. And Jenny, I want to take an opportunity to say, immense gratitude and thanks to you for signing on and taking some time out of your work day to participate in this conversation, because I believe that the attendees found it really, really worthwhile listening to your perspectives. The electives are not offered each term, they rotate. Some electives are offered more frequently than others, but for the most part, they rotate. The online exams are proctored through ProctorU, or students can take them in person on campus, which is proctored through our office. If you have the opportunity to come based on proximity. There's another option, so there's three options: ProctorU, in person at the university, or through a certified testing center. And you would work with our e-learning team who oversees the e-learning platform where you do all your online coursework, and they will work with you to find a certified testing center in your community. Okay, it looks like there are no other questions coming through, and I hope I didn't miss anything. But I want to thank everybody for joining us and staying with us through this end and even beyond. I hope everybody has a great week. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact us. We look forward to seeing you somewhere on Golden Gate University site, or in the online platforms, and maybe even in the cohort. So have a great week, and we look forward to seeing you again. Ciao, everybody.